Our next contestant is Julia Mouat.
Picture your grandparents. What do you know about them? Their lives before you were born. Where did they live? What were their jobs? What kinds of foods did they eat? Maybe you don't know the answers to a lot of these questions, and that's okay. I don't either. But research has shown that the lives of our grandparents can affect our health today. So maybe your grandmother smoked a pack a day, or your grandfather worked in a power plant and was exposed to high levels of pollution. Maybe your grandmother took certain medications during pregnancy, or your grandfather lived solely on burgers and whiskey. These types of social factors, lifestyle choices, and environmental exposures can increase the risk for certain diseases in you, their grandchild. In particular, researchers have found that grandmaternal cigarette smoking may increase risk for autism in the grandchild. The question of my research is, how does that happen? So to understand what we think is going on, imagine your grandmother, but back when she was pregnant. Your grandmother shown here in blue, and the fetus in yellow will someday become your parent. But there's actually already a third generation present. See these green cells inside the yellow fetus? Those will become the sperm or the egg that will create you. And that's really important because inside each of those green cells, there's DNA, shown here in gray. And on top of the DNA sit these molecules, shown in black, that act as switches to turn genes on or off. These are sometimes referred to as the ghosts in our genes. And cigarette smoke can cause these ghosts to move around or increase or decrease in number, inappropriately turning important genes on or off permanently. And because researchers have seen this connection with autism, we think the genes being affected are those related to how our brains develop. And so to study this, I'm using DNA samples from individuals with autism, and I'm examining the patterns of those ghosts on their DNA, and then comparing those patterns to the smoking habits of their grandmothers. And this type of research is still in its infancy, but I think it could have implications far beyond cigarette smoke and autism in our quest to understand multi-generational risk as well as resilience. And so as we all reflect back on our grandparents and the lives that they led, let us also think about our own lives and consider that our actions today could impact generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Why did you begin researching this particular topic?
Yeah, it was really fortuitous because when I came to grad school, I was really interested in looking at genetics combined with environmental health sciences, and I sort of had in the back of my head this idea of multiple generations being affected. And then I came to grad school and I met my current advisor, Janine LaSalle, who was just beginning this multi-generational project, sort of looking at exactly the things that I was interested in researching. And so it was really just totally lucky and fortuitous, and I was so glad that she took me into her lab. And yeah, I think her and all of my lab mates were here. It was just fortuitous and wonderful, really.
That's great. And have you shared your research findings with people outside your field? And if so, what have you learned from talking with them?
Yeah, I found that to be one of the best parts about being at Davis is I found it to be a really interdisciplinary community. I'm so sorry. I'm wearing a mic, apparently. I'm in genetics, but I've been able to talk with a lot of folks in environmental health sciences and in various social science fields, and I found that to just be the most enriching experience of being at Davis. And I think that's mostly been through the centers we have here that are really wonderful, like the Environmental Health Sciences Center, shout out Laura, the Perinatal Origins of Disparities Center, which brings together social sciences and more biological sciences together to look at perinatal origins of disparities, meaning that what happens in utero and early in your life really affects your health and of later generations. So I've felt really fortunate to work with people across disciplines here at Davis.
And this sounds like a passion for you, but if you had to major in something else besides what you're majoring in now, what would it be?
Yeah, I was pondering this, and I think another thing I'm really interested in actually is urban studies and urban planning, because I think it's really interesting how we interact with our built environment. And I think that urban planning really affects multiple generations of families and communities. And so again, I just always go back to this multi-generational risk and resilience. We can be resilient.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.